नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय। ॐ नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय। ॐ अज्ञानतिमिरन्धस्य ज्ञानाञ्जनशलाकया चक्षुरुन्मिलितं येन तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः। नमः ॐ विष्णुपादाय कृष्णपृष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्तिवेदान्तस्वामिनिति नामिने। नमस्ते सारस्वती देवे गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेषशून्यवादी पाश्चात्यदेशतारिणे। जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौरभक्तवृंद। हरे कृष्णा कृष्ण कृष्ण हरे हरे, हरे राम 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 हरे हरे। मुखं करोति वाचालं पंगुं लंघयते गिरिं यत्कृपातमहं वन्दे श्रीगुरुदीनतारिणं परमानन्दमाधवं श्रीचैतन्य ईश्वरम्। Fourth canto, chapter 29, entitled Talks Between Narada and King Prachinabhari, text 22. Kala Kanya Jara Sakshal, Kala Kanya Jara Sakshal, Lokastam Nabhinandati, Lokastam Nabhinandati, Swasaram Jagrihe Mirtyo, Swasaram Jagrihe Mirtyo, Shayaya Yavaneshwara, Shayaya Yavaneshwara, Kalakanya Jaral Sakshal, Lokastam Nabhinandati, Swasaram Jagrihe Mirtyo, Shayaya Yavaneshwara. Kalakanya Jara Sakshal, Lokastam Nabhinandanti, Swasaram Jagrihe Mirtyoho, Shayaya Yavaneshwara. Kalakanya Jara Sakshal, Lokastam Nabhinandanti, Swasaram Jagrihe Mirtyo, Shayaya Yavaneshwara. Kalakanya Jara Sakshal, Lokastam Nabhinandanti, Swasaram Jagrihe Mirtyo, Shayaya Yavaneshwara. Kalakanya Jara Sakshal, Lokastam Nabhinandanti, Shasharam Jagrihe Mirtyo, Shayaya Yavaneshwara. Kalakanya, the daughter of time, Jara, old age, Sakshat, directly, Lokaha, all living entities, Tam, her, Na, never, Abhinandanti, welcome, Swasaram, as his daughter, as his sister, Jagrihe, accepted, Mrityoho, death, Shayaya, for destruction, Yavana Ishvara, the king of the Yavanas. Read the translation. What is described as Kala Kanya should be understood as old age. No one wants to accept old age, but Yavaneshwara, Yavanraj, who is death, accepts Jara, old age, as his sister. Hare Krishna. So seeking the blessings of all the devotees, we will be discussing today the continuation of the talks between Narada Muni and King Prachina Barhi. So in the previous chapter, we saw the allegorical story of Puranjan as a king and what he experienced. Basically, it was an instructive story to Prachina Barhi himself to come out of his attachment in material nature. So today's discussion will cover text 21 with its purport, text 22, which is on the board, its purport, and the next purport, text 23 to 25. So first we'll see text 21's translation. These are all explanations of the allegories, which was mentioned in the last chapter. Translation of text 21. What was previously explained as Chandavega, powerful time, is covered by days and nights, named Gandharvas and Gandharvis. The body's lifespan is gradually reduced by the passage of days and nights, which number 360. Srila Prabhupada writes in the purport, the word parikrantya means by traveling. There's a word which comes in the shloka, haranti ayu parikrantya. Prabhupada continues, the living entity travels on his chariot day and night during a year consisting of 360 or more days and nights. Life's progress, Prabhupada writes, is taken as life's progress is taken for the unnecessary labor required to cover these 360 days and nights of life. So we'll discuss each purport a little before proceeding. So in this purport, the explanation of the Jivatma sitting on the chariot. So all of us also have a chariot, right? This body. Some people feel, I wish I had to have a two-wheeler, four-wheeler. बचपन में young time everyone wants ना खुद का गाड़ी मिलेगा तो अच्छा है, बराबर? But we forget all of us have a गाड़ी, right? This chariot. So this chariot traverses, this word parikrantya, which means traveling. Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur writes rotating. Jai Shri Shri Radha Vrindavan Bihari Bhagavan Shri Gaura Sundar Bhagavan Ki Jai Srila Prabhupada Ki. Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur writes parikrantya means rotating. Okay, parikrantya means crossing or traversing. Parikrantya, to cross over. But Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur says parikrantya means rotating. So all of us are on a journey. The Jivatma is on a journey, and the journey consists of 360 days, which is 1 year. Okay. So Prabhupada writes this nice line in the purport. Life. What is life? What is the progress of life? Life's progress, definition, is taken for the unnecessary labor, unnecessary hard work, parishrama, required just to cover these 360 days and nights. Just to fulfill the quota of 360 days and nights, that is what life's progress is, to work hard. So yesterday also we heard from Sri Vallabhpro. He was describing about happiness and distress. Right? He told a nice story of a king, right, who was told that you can find the secret of happiness from a butterfly. Right? So the king started running, or the person, whatever, started running after a butterfly. And could he catch the butterfly? No. So if you try to catch happiness, it will always escape us. But the moment he sat down silently, then it comes on its own accord. So that's the verse that Narada Muni tells Vyasadeva also in the first canto. Tasyeva heto prayateta kovido na labhyate yad brahmatam uparyada. For a kovidaha, an intelligent person, what is the prayatya that he will do? What is the prayatna? What is the endeavor that he will do? Na labhyate, he will not endeavor for that which you can get by just going up and down in this cycle of material world. Tallabhyate dukkha varanyata sukham kalena sarvatra gabira ramhasa. He will endeavor for that which is not available within these 14 planetary systems, because sukham and dukkham will anyways come by the force of time. Just like we don't want trouble, but trouble comes, we never ask for it. So similarly, sukh will also come. So Prabhupada then writes, but unfortunately people are struggling very hard. They think life's progress means to cross this 360 days, to work very hard. This reminds us of another verse that comes in Bhagavatam. When the demigods were defeated by the demons in the 8th canto because they committed aparat to their guru. So all the demigods started to feel very morose, and they approached Brahma and say, now the demons are conquering us, what should we do? So Brahma, as usual, being a very good manager, he says, okay, let's take this matter further. So he brought all the devatas with him and they went to Shir Sagar, the milk ocean. And there they started offering beautiful devotional, pure devotional prayers to the Lord. Right? So one of the prayers that come is very interesting. They say, Klesha bhuri alpasarani karmani vifalani va dehinam vishayartanam natataivarpitam tvai. He says, Klesha bhuri alpasarani. Suffering is so much. Klesha bhuri. And they say bura hal or something they say in Hindi. Klesha bhuri. So much suffering. But for what? Alpasarani. For very little sara. For very little essence. So much endeavor for very little outcome. But what happens to the activities? Karmani vifalani. Vifal ho jate hai. Whatever activity they try to do, they're not getting the fruits. They become frustrated by it. Okay? For such people, dehinam vishayartanam, because these people want to enjoy this material world. Na tataivarpitam tvai, and they're not offering it to the Supreme Lord. So those who act or endeavor only for self-satisfaction and do not want to offer their activities to the Lord, their activities are defeated and they themselves actually become frustrated, and their endeavor is so much, klesha bhuri, but alpasarani. Right? This is in one sense one word describing material life, material existence. So therefore Prabhupada says, life's progress is the unnecessary labor to cover these 360 days and nights, just to endeavor for this. So Brahmadev is saying, that karmis or materialists are anxious to accumulate wealth for sense gratification, but for that they have to work very hard. Right? We see nowadays also, we are so close to Mumbai and big metropolitan, and people working 12 hours a day, 13 hours a day. Sometimes a person is even aged, but they do not require the money also. Still they go to work, just to feel they have some value. Isn't it? Someone at the age of 50, 60, they don't need the money, but still they do 12 hours job or 8 hours job. Why? Because they want to feel valued. But they don't know what real value is. Isn't it? Real value is Vishnu. Mate vidu swartha gatim. So artha, the real value is actually Vishnu. So even though they work very hard, their results are not satisfying. Right? Indeed, sometimes the work results only in frustration. But the devotees who have dedicated their lives to the service of the Lord can achieve substantial results without working very hard. This is very interesting. Prabhupada says that the devotees, in the translation of that verse, Klesha Bhuri Alpa Karmani, devotees don't work very hard, but just because they are arpita, they have dedicated their life to the Lord, they get the results beyond their expectations. Prabhupada, these results exceed the devotees' expectations. So the purport of this verse is very interesting. You can note down, maybe you can read on your time also. This is 8th canto, 5th chapter, 47th verse. It's a one paragraph purport, but it's a very, Prabhupada becomes very inspired or very encouraged by this, and he writes 8.5.47. So Prabhupada writes, we can practically see how devotees who have dedicated their lives for the service of the Lord in Krishna consciousness movement are getting immense opportunities for the service of the Supreme Personality of Godhead without working very hard. Immense opportunities means they're getting more chance to do seva. Right? Just by, devotees coming together and serving the Lord, somehow we see now, let's say we take this temple, for example. All devotees come together, they just do some, devotional service and try to serve. A big temple comes up, big structure comes up, crores and crores comes up. Although none of us earn even a penny. Isn't it? Crores come up here and there and then. And if you ask any brahmachari or any devotee, life is not so hard, isn't it? Is it life very hard? Prasad comes on time, just have to wake up, you can sit, sing, dance, evening kirtan, morning kirtan. Life not very hard actually. So Prabhupada says that devotees who have dedicated their life, they're getting immense opportunities for service. We got so much opportunities. Festivals keep coming. Now Gita Jayanti is there. Devotees do distribution, they do preaching. So much opportunities to do service to the Supreme Lord. Then Prabhupada tells his story in the purport of Bhagavatam pages. Prabhupada writes, the Krishna consciousness movement actually started with only 40 rupees. But now, at that time, 8th canto means 1976. The Krishna conscious movement actually started with 40 rupees, but now it has more than 40 crores worth of property. And all this opulence has been achieved within 8 or 10 years. No karmi, Prabhupada writes, can expect to improve his business so swiftly. And besides that, whatever karmi acquires is temporary and sometimes frustrating. In Krishna consciousness, however, everything is encouraging and improving. Okay? So, like that verse comes in Shikshastakam now, Param Vijayate Sri Krishna Sankirtanam. So actually the Sankirtan movement of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is already victorious. Right? The battle has already been won. In one sense. Victory is already guaranteed. So then what is our part? We are not to ensure victory. We are just to be part of that victory celebration. After victory, there's a celebration. Huh? We are just meant to be part of the victory celebration. Victory is already there. Sometimes we think that I am the one who is going to bring on the victory. There's no victory. Param Vijayate Sri Krishna Sankirtanam. The Sankirtan movement has already been won. We just have to remain to be part of the victory celebration. So Prabhupada says, in Krishna consciousness, everything is encouraging and improving. The Krishna consciousness movement is not very popular with the karmis because this movement recommends one to refrain from illicit sex, meat eating, gambling and intoxication. These are restrictions that karmis very much dislike. Nonetheless, in the presence of so many enemies, Prabhupada writes, this movement is progressing. Right? So, whatever obstacles, hurdles, difficulties that we, or as a movement, society, we face, but still the movement is going forward. This movement is progressing, going forward without impediments, Prabhupada writes. If the devotees continue to spread this movement, dedicating life and soul to the lotus feet of Krishna, no one will be able to check it. Then Prabhupada ends by saying, the movement will go forward without limits. And he ends, chant Hare Krishna. An exclamation mark. Chant Hare Krishna. And he ends like that. So it's a very encouraging purport. Because the next verse actually speaks of that 8th canto verse, of how, that the Lord is like the Supreme Father, very dear to the children. So even if one does a little act in devotional service, it always remains. Okay, it's always eternal. What is that in 2.40? How it starts? Neha Bikrama Nasho Asti, correct? So like that, similar like that, this Bhagavatam verse also says. So again, this purport, we are seeing how life progress is an unnecessary labor. And so many analogies are there of this material world. Right? Even in Bhagavad Gita it says, Manah Shashtani Indriyani Karshati. That this material world is a place of struggle. Mahabharata comes the story of the man hanging upside down, right, trying to taste nectar, being chased by a 6-faced elephant, which are the Shad Ritus. Which are the Ritus, yeah, correct, 6 seasons. Right? That chase him. So despite hanging upside down in a horrible, Mahabharata, that description is so intense, but he tastes that drop of nectar and he thinks, I'm happy. So like that in Shastra, so many sections come to speak about the nature of this material world. Just now we are in the 4th canto, 30th chapter, adverse reactions of fruitive activities. We heard how a person who's very sinful, who does karmic activities, how he's suffering, he's like a dog, Dandam, Odanam, Evava. He goes from one house to another, struggling. Right? And in the next canto, in the 5th canto, again we'll come to another section of the forest of material enjoyment. That's also another long description of how this material world is. So, 3rd canto, 4th canto, 5th canto, and in many places speak how this world is not our home. This is not where we belong. Right? So, Prabhupada says that how life progress is nothing but year-to-year maintenance. Year to year, you're checking your mileage. I crossed 360 years. That's a birthday, isn't it? Everyone celebrates their birthday. Why? Unfortunately, today is my birthday. so, so everyone celebrates their birthday. Why? Basically to check that I have survived for 1 year. The celebration of a birthday is what, as Prabhupada writes, life's progress is taken as unnecessary labor required just to cover 360 days and nights. You completed 1 year, Haribol, isn't it? So it's like a marker or a milestone. I survived 1 more year. Sometimes we read newspaper, a person dies at 70 years old. They say that, just 2 months more, that person will be actually 71. As if he missed something so big, isn't it? So that means this crossing this 360 days, it's such a big endeavor for all the jivas. Year to year we are being accounted. This is a milestone. But eventually Srila Prabhupada says, just like a child playing on the beach, building sand castles, when the waves of time comes, everything will be washed away. So this is the power of Kala, Chandavegha, right? Like Gaurang Prabhu says, time destroys everything except ignorance. Everything gets destroyed except avidya will not get destroyed. Who are ignorant will remain ignorant only. Right? Recently I had a discussion with one boy. So he was justifying meat eating. Right? So he was telling that, why meat eating is needed, why it's important for him. So I asked him why. I keep asking why. So he says, meat eating is needed because I need the proteins. I said, vegetables have proteins and this and that. He said, that is inferior proteins. We need superior proteins. I said, okay, why? Why you need proteins, I asked him. He said, because I go to the gym. Okay, great. Why you go to the gym? Then he said, to build my body. I said, why do you need to build your body? Are you Hamali working here carrying cement bags? We have so many laborers, they don't have bodies like that. Nowadays people go to gym, they build their body so big. Just later to go to the office and type on the computer. Itna sharir chahiye kya isko type karne ke liye? Such a huge body. Sometimes they wear the shirt, the button itself is coming out. We had one teacher in, what school was that? In Wada? There was a school in Wada. Earlier the teacher was there, ideal school. So one of the teachers, he was a gym instructor. Right? For kids school. Small children, and the sir was so built. The button was like going to burst. And I thinking, who he has to fight with? Is he fight with prisoners or what? Small children. So small children, the big built teacher. It's kind of like, Rasabas or something, So people working so hard, building their body just to do this work. Whereas you see laborers, they work so hard, they don't have such a, hard built. So I said, okay, you want to build your body. Why? Right? So what are you going to say? So he told that, for happiness. He told like that. I said, ultimately you want happiness. So much klesha bhuri, alpasarani. How much happiness you'll get out of this? If you stop doing your exercise, you lose everything. Isn't it? So you're working so hard, slaughtering the animal, cooking, consuming the animal, taking your protein, working out hours in a day just to build your body. Ultimate end, what do you want? Happiness. But here we give you an alternative to find true happiness. What about that? Right? So like that, so much endeavor, so much mehnat. So now we'll go to the next verse purport we'll discuss, which is on the board. I'll read the translation. What was described as Kala Kanya should be understood as old age. No one wants to accept old age, but Yavaneshwara, Yavanaraj, who is death, accepts Jara, old age, as his sister. So in this purport, also another paragraph purport, one paragraph. Prabhupada writes some nice points, we'll discuss in between. So the purport goes, encaged within the body, the living being accepts Kala Kanya just before death. So no one wants old age, but one is forced to accept old age. Okay? Yavaneshwar, which is Yamaraj, before going to the place of Yamaraj, the living entity accepts Jara, old age, the sister of Yamaraj. Then Prabhupada writes one nice line. One is subjected to the influence of Yavanraj and his sister due to impious activity. One is subjected to old age and death due to impious activity. So those who are in Krishna consciousness are engaged in devotional service under the instructions of Narada Muni, basically this section because Narada Muni is speaking, are not subjected to Yamaraj and Jara. I mean, devotees won't die? No, Prabhupada writes. If one is Krishna conscious, he conquers death. How? after leaving the material body, he does not accept another body. Means one time death, no more death. So in that sense, you already conquered death. You will never get it again. Right? He returns home back to Godhead. This is verified in Bhagavad Gita 4.9. Janma karma cha me divyam. So the first point, how sufferings are due to impious activity, right? Death and old age. So, sometimes I think, there's so much sufferings in life. Like right now, it's very cold. Personally, I feel, lips are drying, skin is drying. Sometimes I feel my bones are drying. Right? It's so cold, but still we have walls, we have roofs, we have blankets, we have chadars, we have sweaters. And then I remember, like when this cold started, I was thinking how we go to villages, tribals are there. And some of them don't have walls. They just have this bamboo, Gauracharanpur knows. They have all this, just this bamboo fixtures. And sometimes no roof for, just some talpatri and they put like that. And at this cold, how are they, managing? Of course, they might have something else, but that's a different thing. But so much suffering is there. So sometimes we don't realize actually how much suffering is going on around us. It's Krishna's grace that we are in a very, in Krishna's shelter, in Prabhupada's shelter, in Guru's shelter. But around us also so much suffering. We go to a local village, we know there's no drinking water also. In Vikramgarh, Saharepada is there, one place. It's like Sahara Desert. Because there's no drinking water, especially in summers. So what do people do? Where do they get their water from? The dried up river beds, sometimes there's like potholes. So there's some water is remaining. They go and they scoop up water with a dish. And sometimes puddles are there. So that is their drinking water. They take a dish and they take their, what do you call that? Not matka, that metal banda. Huh? You know na, what they carry on their head. Na? So they carry that, they take a dish and they collect water like that. So life is very tough actually, very hard. Right? There's an NGO, because we work with NGOs. So there's an NGO in UK. When they heard about this problem in India, how, people have to walk so many kilometers just to fill up that water. So they came up with a project called Wells on Wheels. Right? Wells on Wheels. This is a UK NGO that's working in India. So they said that because girls and young village people, they have to walk so far and carry such heavy burden on their head, they have made a new invention where it's like a wheelbarrow, hath gadi, where the wheel is a water tub, you fill that, and you just have to push and go back home. Pull and push like that. That is your water carrier. You just have to roll it, it rolls. Right? And so that has been promoted. And when we saw that, I was thinking that actually doesn't solve the problem, isn't it? Because what is the main problem? Arey, pani nahi re. Uthane ka problem nahi hai. Pani nahi. There's no water only. And they are thinking about the carrying is the issue. Carrying on the head. They feel it's so burdensome. Isn't it? When Srila Prabhupada came to India, he asked his female disciples, would you like to learn how to carry water on your head? Like village ladies. So it was a very amazing thing actually. Right. So that's not the problem. The problem is there's no water. Later in some verses that will come ahead, in this very chapter, Narada Muni will tell Prachina Bari the same thing. He will say, Yatahi purusho bharam shirasa guru mudvahan tam skandena sadhate tata sarva pratikriya. All your methods or measures of just counteracting your miseries, your sufferings, is nothing but taking the bharam from your head to your shoulder. And when you feel your skanda is painful, you put back on your head. So the modern day pratikriyas, whatever endeavors or counteraction methods, is nothing but shifting the burden from the head to the shoulder, shoulder to the head, shoulder. It's not solving the problem. The burden is the problem. Now you should put it down. But still you're just shifting the problem. So similarly, what is this? That sufferings are actually due to sinful activities. So what is the solution then? Ultimate solution. How much interventions we do will not solve anything. The real solution is that one has to become Krishna conscious. One has to end sinfulness. So when we had a meeting with His Holiness Bhakti Purushottam Swami Maharaj, so he mentioned the same point, that he was talking about working in the tribal areas in Northeast. He was saying that he just laughed. He said, somehow or other, when I saw the tribals, when they took up to Krishna consciousness, their material life also kind of improved. They started to look nice. They started to look clean. They started to dress nice. Somehow they also come to know about, modern things. They became ushar. a bit smart. So somehow or other, wherever there is spiritual progress, material progress also follows. Right. The next point mentioned in this purport, this one line Prabhupada says, that if one is Krishna conscious, he conquers death. So this is like the verse we know in second canto. Ayur harati vaipumsam udyanastan chayannaso tasyarte yatshano nita uttama shloka vartaya. That purport of that verse, second canto verse, is a nice line that Prabhupada says. Prabhupada says, what is death? Death is a symptom of material infection. Death means there's a material disease. It is only due to this material infection of the living entity is subjected to birth, death, old age and disease. So death is nothing but an artificial imposition on the living entity. Right? And how does one come out of it? So there's a beautiful verse that comes in the first verse also, the first canto also. Etadishanamishasya prakriti stopi tadgunai na yujjate sadatmastir tatha yatha buddhes tadashraya. This verse actually is glorification of the Lord. How the Lord, although situated in prakriti stopi tadgunai, still he is nayujja matma. He is not bound by anything. He is free. So similarly, yata buddhis tat ashraya. For an intelligent person, here buddhi refers to the devotee. Tat ashraya, if he takes shelter of the Lord, he also doesn't become bound by this material world. So now we are suffering birth, old age, death, disease, and so much sufferings due to sinful activities. But if one actually takes shelter of the Lord, then one becomes freed from this. Okay. So we'll move on to the last purport for today's discussion, which is text 23 to 25. So I'll just read the translation. It continues the description. The followers of Yavaneshwara, Yamaraj, are called soldiers of death. They are known as the various types of disturbance that pertain to body and mind. Prajvara represents two types of fever, extreme heat and extreme cold. Prabhupada says, typhoid and pneumonia. Okay? The living entity lying down within the body is disturbed by so many tribulations pertaining to providence, Daiva, to other living entities, and to his own body and mind. So basically this is Adi-Atma, Adi-Bhaudik, Adi-Daivik, Klesha. Despite all these kinds of tribulations, the living entity, subjected to the necessities of the body, mind and senses, suffers from various types of disease and is carried away by many plans due to his lust to enjoy this material world. So someone who is, it's just like a person in prison, okay, a person in prison being tortured and he's dreaming. Oh, when I get free, I'll build a big house. I'll get this, I'll do this. I'll learn a new language. I'll travel to a foreign place. But you're in jail, you're suffering, you're being punished. But still so much dreams are there. So the living entity also, although so much difficulties are there due to the mind and body, still so much lust or so much plans to enjoy this world. Although transcendental to material existence, right? The living entity out of ignorance is accepting all these miseries under the pretext of I and mine. And in this way, he lives for 100 years within this body. 100 is the quota. We may not fulfill the quota. So Prabhupada begins by quoting this verse, Asango yam hi purusha. How the jiva is actually pure, who is not connected with this material world. He is actually separate from this material existence. But Prabhupada continues to say, in the Bhagavad Gita, the living entity is the superior energy of the Lord, whereas earth, water, fire, air, ether, right? They are all known to be inferior energies. They are known as the Bhinna Prakriti, separated energy. Whereas the Jivatma is a superior energy. So then why does the Jiva suffer? If the Jiva is superior to matter, why does the Jiva suffer? So in the next paragraph, Prabhupada writes, the Lord says because of Matra Sparshas tu Kaunteya, because of touch or identifying with matter, Matra Sparshas tu Kaunteya, he experiences Sita, Ushna, Sukha, Dukkha, like that. And so many difficult diseases. Right? Prabhupada even says that, due to maladjustments of Kapha, Vata, Pitta and all, he suffers. Then Prabhupada talks about Adhyatmic Klesh. He says the intestine, throat and brain. 3 places Prabhupada mentions. The intestines means the stomach, the throat and the brain. Okay, I think it's Kapha, Pitta and Vayu. Because generally if there's some imbalance in the Vayu in the brain, that leads to a lot of nerve problems and what do you call that? Parkinson's and something like that issues, you know. I think, I don't know. Some Ayurvedic person might say, Siridhani might prove what. So he says 3 locations. Stomach, he says intestines, throat, where Kaph is predominant, intestine where bile, or what is bile? Pitta is predominant, and brain. Okay. So the intestine, throat and brain and other parts of the body are affected by all kinds of disease. The living entity, however, is different from all these elements. So Prabhupada explains 2 types of fever as pneumonia and typhoid, extreme because of cold and fever. Okay. So he talks that is Adhyatma Klesh. Then the Adi Bhaudika Klesh, they are miseries caused by other living entities. Prabhupada gives example, state exacts taxes. Right. So all of us don't work. At least most of us don't work. Right. So maybe we forgot even how it was paying taxes after so long. Right. Tax is very difficult now. You have to file your income tax return. You have to try to save money on it. Rajkitipuru is smiling. Isn't it so difficult? And the tax keep increasing. So state taxes. There are also many thieves, rogues and cheaters. Right. One devotee was sharing recently. The whole family went for a retreat. I think they came to GV actually, and their house was robbed in Nalasopara. So gold and cash, some lakh worth of items were all robbed. So the devotee and the parents had come to GV for an outing, and their house got robbed. And then they were just like, what to do now? We came to Krishna, abhi sab chala gaya, gold, paisa, sab cheez hai, ghar pe. Everything got lost. So like that, thieves, rogues, cheaters. So these are all miseries that are called Adi Bhaudik. Then there are also miseries in the form of famine, especially in the village when we work with farming and all. This is so sad, that even if you put the seed, whether you will get the harvest or not, wo bharosa nahi hai. Too much rain, you lose everything. Too less rain, you lose everything. Even if the crops are coming nicely, suddenly there's a locust infection and everything goes. Right? Suddenly one rogue comes and you can't do anything. There's a foot rot rogue which destroys the stem of the plants and all the plants just fall down and die. Suddenly it comes. There's no planning. There's not like, hey, पिछले साल हुआ था, ये साल नहीं होएगा, या 10 साल से नहीं हुआ, ये साल भी नहीं होएगा. Nothing like that. Suddenly, this year there's a rogue. Just like for cows we heard, lumpy disease suddenly came. And so like this, suddenly things just come up. We can't do anything, Right? There's scarcity, war, earthquakes, so on. So these are all caused by the various devatas and sources beyond our control. So Prabhupada writes, actually there are many enemies of the living entities. Right? And these are all described to point out how miserable this material existence is. So, what is the solution from this? Prabhupada writes, knowing the basic misery of material existence, one should be induced to get out. What I say? One should be induced to get out of the material clutches and return home back to Godhead. Actually, the living entity is not at all happy in this material body. Because the body, he suffers thirst and hunger influenced by the mind, by words, by anger, by belly, by genitals, by rectum, by so on. So, even though the Jivatma tries to control all these things, still the vega of all these things, the belly, the genitals, the mind, are sometimes so much that they embarrass a person. Even though we want to control them, but sometimes the vegas are so strong that they lead us to embarrassing situations. So Brahmaji also in his prayer in 3rd canto, he sees the suffering of the jiva and he feels very pitiful. He prays to the Lord in his prayers in the 9th chapter. He says that, oh my great Urukrama, oh Lord, these poor creatures, these jivatmas who he only gave the bodies, are perplexed by hunger, thirst, cold, secretion, bile, coughing, winter, blasting summer, rains, many other disturbing elements, and overwhelmed by strong sex urges. He said, Kamagnina, Achyuta Rusha, insatiable anger, Achyuta Rusha, and Kamagnina, he uses this word, Sudhur Bharena, they cannot bear it. He uses all these heavy words, in the Sanskrit. I take pity on them. I am very much aggrieved for them. The Prabhupada writes in the purport how Brahma is a Vaishnava devotee and they're feeling such a pitiable situation we are in. So as long as we're in this material world, These are the things which will always embarrass us, no matter how much we try to control them or try to avoid them. So, manifold miseries, Prabhupada continues to say, manifold miseries encircle the living entity simply because he desires to satisfy the senses in this material world. Then Prabhupada says, if he simply withdraws from the activities of sense gratification and applies his senses in the service of the Lord, all the problems of material life, all the problems of material existence will immediately diminish. And with the advancement of Krishna consciousness, he will be freed from all turbulations, and after giving up the body, will return back home, back to Godhead. So as Bhagavad Gita says, how long we have to tolerate all this embarrassing situation, difficult situation? Any time we can have put into a very embarrassing situation. Prak sharira vimokshanat. As long as his body is there, tab tak humko jhelna padega, sahan karna padega. Because any time we could put, mind is racing, bellies are racing, intelligence is racing. So we try our best to take shelter of the Supreme Lord, and therefore a devotee feels very insignificant. Because what to speak about Maya when the own body and mind and material body, mind and senses are so much troubling us? It's very, we feel very insignificant. We are nothing even in front of our own material mind. We are nothing even in front of our own material intelligence. We are nothing in front of our own material senses. And therefore, the devotee has to take constant shelter of the Lord, constant prayer, constant association, constant care, and somehow or other, prak sharira vimokshana, try to reach the end of the line and not just pass 360 days every year thinking that I survived, one more year, like that. So we like to end here. Hare Krishna, Jai Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam ki, Shla Prabhupada ki, Jai.